By going against Rahul Dravid, who's the head coach, you were leaking dressing room info. Now that is against any ethics. By leaking Sourav Ganguly's personal WhatsApp messages to this particular cricketer, you were going against any ethics.
You've talked about how you were labelled as a bully. You were labelled as someone who threatened a cricketer's international career.
Everybody knows the name of the cricketer. I don't have to name.
Perfect. Hey guys, welcome back to Cricket by Just Baate. Today is a very special episode with a very special guest. He's a prominent figure in the world of sports, especially in India for the last 20 years. He has loads of work behind him. He's also an author.
Now, of course, today we are going to be talking about this book, Banned. It talks about a certain cricketer accusing a certain journalist, and the journalist went through a social media trial. So this is what all of today's episode is going to be about.
Now, to start off, there's a couple of uncomfortable questions for us to ask because we've never been in this situation before. You've talked about how you were labelled as a bully, you were labelled as someone who threatened a cricketer's international career, which is a joke in itself, but also threatened him for the last couple of years. Now, he told all of this about you. Why wouldn't you go out of your way and name him? Because, in fact, you also released a video in the first few years of when this happened, when you were banned, and you did take his name in the video itself. So what stopped you from taking his name in the book itself?
Firstly, and it's very clear, everybody knows the name of the cricketer. I don't have to name. I've given 100 interviews and everybody, even reviewers, have written about the name of the cricketer. Yeah. The cricketer did not name me. And there is a difference between the cricketer and me. What he had unleashed on me in the aftermath of what he said and my family, no one should go through that. No one. And the moment I named that cricketer, with that use of the term YPU, which by the way I wear as a badge of honor, what he did, and by saying that I don't want to hurt this man's family, he was using the Brutus is an honorable man trope. And what he did was, he unleashed this entire avalanche of vitriol on me. And I know what it can do. It destroyed my family. I will not get my mother's health back. And she's sort of deteriorated over the last couple of years. So I live with that trauma every day. I live with that trauma when I see my mom and when I hear my sister's words that what will happen now, how do we salvage, how do we take responsibility for it? And I know deep down that it is because of a series of lies peddled by someone that this has happened. Now if I go name, and you have seen the reaction to the book, I didn't even know you. You all reached out to me and we are doing this show. And this has happened not once, but over the last month and a half since the book got released. I've had hundreds and hundreds of emails and messages. People have come out in support and the book is a bestseller. Now the moment, and sadly so for the cricketer, he's going through a bad time in his career as well with the IPL. If I named him, even if 10% of this happened to his family, I would always curse myself that I am the same person. I did the exact same mistake that he did. I can tell you, this book is not written in anger. This book is also a manual for anyone who has to go through this kind of a social media trial. And God forbid, he or his family shouldn't have to go through this. No human being should have to go through this. When your father, who's passed away 23 years back, his photograph below it is written a bastard. Okay? So I know these are uncomfortable questions and uncomfortable things to say, but the truth is, I was conscious that if I do, even if it's 1% of what I faced, it's not easy to face that. And he has a 10-year-old daughter, so do I. So I know what I'm talking about here. To go and say about me that his daughter wasn't able to get out of the house because of me is the most ridiculous nonsense that I can hear. You come to my house, you've seen in Kolkata, people know me, to think that I'm a gunda who will go and threaten someone and his family and his daughter and his wife. Come on, spare me a thought. So I can't stoop to that level. Yep. I've said what I had to in the book. This book is about me, my family, my colleagues and my friends. I needed to put the truth out there, and the truth is now known to everyone. My fight ends there. And in future, anyone who faces a social media trial can be you. Yep. You know that there is someone who's faced it, and as a journalist, my hand will be up to back you. So it is not my intention to hurt the cricketer or his family or anyone concerned with him, because if that was the intention, I would have done it.
I actually have a couple of questions related to that. But before we jump on to that, right, you he leaked out your WhatsApp messages, which is a breach of privacy. You have addressed that in the book. What stopped you from not going through, let's call them BCCI, let's not going through BCCI, not through the apex body and their trial, but to file a legal case and go through the jurisdiction and the court, all of that? What stopped you from doing that?
Good question. And this question has been asked by many in the public domain on social media. First things first, I had spent 16 lakh rupees in legal consultation in a month. I had almost gone and filed a case at the Kolkata High Court and had bought whatever that case papers, 50,000 rupees is whatever the cost is. So close to 16.5 lakhs in 1 month. I ran a startup. I'm not a billionaire. If I had to go and file a case which will continue, people say very easily, Kolkata High Court, Supreme Court, this, that, you through these terms, the kind of monies I would have spent, I don't have that kind of money. Number two, if I would have had that kind of money, I would much rather put that money into rev sports and salvage families than go and file a case. Number three, most important, my mother is 74 and I have seen what kind of trauma she has been through. I have seen how my wife had to deal with it on a day-to-day basis. If I went and filed the court and dragged this for more than 2 years, 3 years, in India these kind of cases don't even end in the next 5 years. I would have made sure that my family was living with this issue every single day rather than this book, which is a closure of sorts. So I would have not sort of damaged myself. I would have taken this to my family, monetarily to my company. So it's very easy to say, why did you not fight a legal battle? When you are against the powerful and the entitled and the moneyed, these are important things that you have to think. And in my case, there are 42 people who work for Rev Sports. So 40 families are on me. I would much rather go save 40 families than just go to file a case in the Supreme Court and High Court and spend money on legal fees. I've done that. As I said, I'm happy to give you receipts as well for the monies that I've spent, and it's no less than 16.5 lakhs.
Well, I mean, we totally get your point of view. And also the thing is, you have sort of mentioned how you considered this cricketer a friend before all of this.
We can take his name. Just
Well, Riddhiman Saha, for those of you who are not aware. But yeah, you did consider Saha a friend before all of this happened. And there is obviously the screenshots that are out there about the WhatsApp messages and all of that. Now, there are some messages that you sent that were in a state of anger or when your emotions got the better of you. So, do you feel that that is somewhere that you kind of crossed the line, or what is your stance on that?
Listen, if somebody at his worst in 2018, 2019 can write to me. First, let's decode the charges against me. He just mentioned I was intimidating for 3-4 years. That's one charge.
Yeah.
Now, in the 3-4 years, you are messaging me saying, please look into my side of the story. You are seeing what is happening to me. Please represent my side of the story without telling people that I have given you this. What does this tell you? There is a certain sense of camaraderie.
That's right.
Now, I did not behave in the same abominable manner and go and leak this, saying, oh, you know what, this cricketer is actually telling me to represent his side of the story and not say this in the public domain. This is a bond. That's a bond of friendship between two human beings. So first question first. If someone is sending me this, either of you, am I intimidating you for 4 years? Because then you must be completely dumb to send me this message.
Exactly.
Number one. So point proved.
Yeah.
Number two, did I cross the line, etc.? For a second take, I crossed the line. This is the background to this.
Right.
Get me a call and say, hello, are you an idiot that you've sent me these messages? What are you telling me this? Let's finish it. You want to put it out, tampering my messages, wiping away the date, say that your family is getting this thing, you are getting dropped because of me, and make sure that your series of lies result in a 2-year ban and destroy somebody's family? There has to be a limit.
Yeah.
Have you not sent a message like this to a friend? Look,
100%.
what was the third charge against me? I remember. Why did I ask for an exclusive? There is no journalism without exclusives.
That's true, yeah, 100%.
Right?
Yeah.
If I don't ask for an exclusive, then I'm not a journalist. Then press releases would have run the day. And then Rev Sports would not be what Rev Sports is today. Because I can claim that we have the maximum number of exclusives in India across sport in the last 2 years.
Exactly.
Without sounding pompous. So, if we actually decode, and I've said this very categorically, that 9 phone calls, multiple colleagues, someone knows you for 12 years, someone has been this close, I have given you the background.
Right.
If that is what the relationship is all about, it took 1 phone call or 1 message.
That's true.
1 phone call or 1 message. Chalo, wo bhi chhod dete hain. All it took was the next day. Not tampering my messages. Not wiping the date away. not revealing to the world a false truth, which is not the truth.
Exactly.
So I am happy to give you my phone now to check the dates of the messages. 10th and 12th Feb or 13th Feb, which was the date of the auction, right? And not 19th Feb. So to concoct and to lie in front of the world and hold on to that lie, to see through it so that I suffer, my family suffers, and the avalanche of vitriol is heaped on my wife, my mother, and my daughter. It doesn't speak very highly of a person's character.
That's true.
That's true. And the timing of it is very interesting, right? You've mentioned this in the book as well. He was talking about the management and how he was handled in the team. And of course, there was a lot of things going to go against him. And then the next day, this comes out. And interestingly enough, like we were talking about it when it happened, and we were going to make a video on Saha and how he's apparently been mishandled. And the next day he's going against this journalist, which was very, very interesting. And I don't see a lot of people that caught on to that. And the fact that you've mentioned this in the book is very important. And this is also what my next question...
That is the story.
Yeah, exactly. That is
the story. Why? I mean, many people would come, even I, would come and think, why would he do this?
Yeah.
Right? Exactly. This why question actually lies in the fact that he would have suffered. By going against Rahul Dravid, who's the head coach, you were leaking dressing room info. Now that is against any ethics, number one. By leaking Sourav Ganguly's personal WhatsApp messages to this particular cricketer, you were going against any ethics. It was between a board president and a certain cricketer, both from the same state. So there was a social media backlash. When you get dropped, now you've spoken against the coach, you've spoken against the board president, you've landed yourself in a suit. Your contract could have gone, your disciplinary proceedings could have been instituted. You have to come out of this mess. And you overturned the whole story. My messages were sitting in his mailbox as this idiot who had sent me this. And he played the victim card to perfection.
Right. Yep.
Now, I don't know if I should say this, but I'm telling you this. I had 4 interviews set up. Gary Kirsten, Sanjeev Goenka, Parth Jindal and Ashish Nehra. This cricketer's interviews would, you run a YouTube channel and a podcast. Tell me, this cricketer's interview would have given me 4 numbers? Nothing. It's not even valued at a rupee. I would have had to spend money to push this interview because he's not news. Gary and Sanjeev and Parth and Ashish were news. Why would I? I mean, is idiot written on my face? Why would I go and do this or try to back him or try to help him if I did not have the intention to help him? So, it was a perfect ploy to play the victim card, to put me in front of the bus and roll me over. And by the way, he did save his central contract. So a couple of crores saved there, and a couple of crores and a lot more gone in my hand. So the world is this is not grey. This is black and white as to who played what card and who did what to sort of destroy someone else.
It's the perfect PR play, if you can call it that. And talking about social media, that's where my question was coming to. BCCI being so powerful, having so much money, dominating world cricket and all of that. Do you think in some sense the apex body, for you to call it that, fell under social media pressure to back their cricketer and not the journalist?
What could they do? I mean, ultimately, today he's not. He was a centrally contracted cricketer at that point in time. I don't fault the board. If you are mine, if you are my centrally contracted cricketer, it's like my son. I'm the protected body. It's one person's word against another. And this one person already has 100,000 tweets against him every single day of abuse. So that's the social media trial that I'm talking about. Whether it is the board, whether it is Donald Trump, whether it is Narendra Modi, whether it is the Prime Minister, whether it's anyone, today's social media is acutely powerful. True. Let's face it.
100%.
Because and that is the kangaroo court who sit in judgment. Whether it's about anything. Prime Minister going to Kanyakumari, backlash. Or good part, good bad. I'm not getting into a value judgment on it. But everyone on social media has an opinion. And in this case, the opinion was this guy is a bully. This guy threatened, he's a criminal, he's a monster, he's a bastard. So kill him. So if that is what you are getting on social media every single day, what are you supposed to do? At one hand, you have a centrally contracted cricket. I don't blame them.
Right. But what's the 2-year ban about though? Because, I mean, a couple of days before he did this, he was criticizing their players, their coaches, and then he does this. But why the 2-year ban? Like, what's the statement you think BCCI were trying to send out?
That we will protect our cricketer from any kind of so-called intimidation or abuse or bullying or whatever it is. Now I've lived through every single day of this unfair whatever. But do I blame the body? No, I don't. Because the body got played. The body as much got played. Because, and the body is not an intangible body. It's a tangible body. 3 people sitting in judgment. They had no basis but to take 2 people, evaluate their judgment. And by the way, if you read the committee report, I've 25 times even told them, and I'm telling you, that he was the one who was lying. So, at my end, there was never any chance of changing my version. And there was no compromise or whatever. So, I'm not playing you. So, I was very clear. I don't blame the body. The body got played, and that is the power of social media. Had it not been a social media age, it would have been one against another. There's no pressure on the body that has already been built by an external factor. And you could have had a more saner judgment. I could have expected a more saner judgment. But that's the problem. That now, even without courts, people sit in judgment and it's innocent till proven guilty is no longer the case. You are now guilty till proven innocent. And in my case, this book finally has exonerated me to a degree. Still some idiots write YPU, etc. They don't realize it's a badge of honor. And I don't care. Because now whether you abuse me or you don't abuse me, my truth is out there for people to consume. So from my end, the story ends.
I mean, you've summarized it beautifully in your book where you call cricketers demigods. And it's also because of the public now. They just elevate them to that kind of status. And yeah, I mean, you've also talked about how, in your book, you've talked about how even the Pakistani journalists seem to understand where you were coming from. But the Indian journalists...
No, there's a difference here.
Right.
There's a difference here. I mean, firstly, that the interaction that I mentioned about some Pakistani journalists was during the World Cup, which was 6 months down the road. Okay, number one. And they came up and said, and in our profession, I mean, if it was a medical profession, I can see doctors going and siding with doctors. Right. Sadly, in our profession, that's not the case. In our profession, it's about, if he's out, then one major competitor is no longer there. And now I will get one more exclusive. We are a divided lot. The problem is, what we don't understand is our profession is in peril. Our profession is in serious crisis. Today, how many media organizations send journalists to cover? Hardly any. You will still send a political journalist, you will not send a sports journalist. How many sports journalists have jobs? How many events are covered? And if I break it down, it is one of those moments in our history when all of us need to be together. Right. Otherwise, this profession is in peril. And we don't get that. So, to eliminate me is not the solution. Right. To stand together is the solution. Sadly, we don't get it because we think short term and we think, अरे बोरिया को हटा देंगे तो 4 exclusive मिल जाएंगे. नहीं मिलेगा.
That's exactly what I was coming to also.
कुछ नहीं मिलेगा because वो 4 exclusive के लिए तुमने अपना profession का 4 साल का damage कर दिया. Right. So when I think everywhere there's a budget cut. Everywhere, how many people now go to cover events? Say no, television se kar lo. Political journalists do. The 9 o'clock editor will sit and suppose there is a gold medal in an Olympic Games. You are covering that. You will be told, get that athlete for me for my 9 o'clock show. You will be violated. You will be violated. You will be violated because you are the damn person on the ground. So it's your show. Why don't you do it? No, the 9 p.m. editor who's a political editor will instruct you, no, get that athlete for me. Every single day the sports journalist is being violated. It is our chance to stand together for our profession. Rather, we are a divided lot. We will not, and that's nobody came in support. Why? Did people ask me my side of the story? What is the basics of journalism? That there are 2 sides to a story. Then you decide. And I'm not even saying that I am truthful. No, but ask me, what happened? A, B, C, including my former organization. What happened? Nobody asked. So you are actually playing a story out, already making up your mind, when you know that this is anti-journalism. That is the problem. My own people were called, and I've got it on record. I've got the recording where they are saying, "Ek baar bol do, ek baar uska naam bol do." I've worked for this organization for 9.5 years. Be sensible. You are not, all of us got played. Because we are against us. The journalistic sports media fraternity doesn't understand that we are a minuscule bunch who are fighting between ourselves and killing ourselves. And this entitled lot who we have created will take advantage. That's why when I was super pleased when Gopi Chand spoke out, when Abhinav Bindra spoke out, when Michael Clark spoke out. Now listen, these are people of credibility. Gopi and Abhinav and Michael, with due respect to this cricketer, are anyways more credible than he ever will be.
That's true.
When Gopi spoke out and he said, look, I face this on a daily basis. Abhinav said we should behave with more responsibility. Michael said the same. A lot of other cricketers have written to me. within the team. I'm in touch with a lot, all of them.
Yeah.
So I now understand that this has been a bit of an eye-opener. But my plea is, as a fraternity of sport journalists, it is important we are together rather than against us.
Let's just for a second take a step back and let's talk about how a journalist got played by a cricketer and you're reporting it. Rev Sports is going to report it. In a country or like in a situation, in an environment where headlines sells. I mean, we make YouTube videos with the most clickbaity title and then address the title in the video. How would have you gone about reporting that? Because the reason, I mean, I'm also assuming a reason, one is competition, but the other is the reason they didn't want to know your side of the story because it might not sell. The cricketer got bullied. The cricketer in India got bullied. And so how would you have gone about reporting that story?
I have a very simple answer to this. I'm one who covers, or I get my teammates to cover the Asian Para Games and the Paralympic Games with the same verve that I do a cricket world. I don't do stories to sell. I don't. I know for a fact that if I spend 50 lakh rupees on a Paralympic Games and an Olympic Games, I will not get 10% ROI. Let's put it that way. When during the Cricket World Cup, the Asian Para Games was being held in China, we were the only Indian media organization that had representatives in China. The 111 medals. For me, that is as much significant as anything. We know for a fact that when a badminton competition, for example, Thomas Cup is on during the IPL. For me, the Thomas Cup win is more important than a domestic competition of the IPL. Sadly, we will report the IPL with much work. I don't report for TRPs. So, and I'm very clear about it. Rev Sports doesn't. The fact that we are a multi-sport, holistic platform is because we don't. There's no jingoism, there's no sensationalism, and my reporters are very clear about it. We will cover Paris with more gusto and Paris Paralympics with more gusto than we will do an IPL any day. And that is because, so I don't need to show you more proof that I don't give a damn about TRPs. Yes, you consume me, I need numbers. That's why people have read my book and all. But whether TRP will define my life, whether numbers will define my life and those YouTube, whatever, 10%, I don't know what earnings they are. They will define my life, I'm sorry they won't. I'm not a victim to social media earnings, and I will never be. That my journalism will be defined by jingoism and social media earnings will not. And the example that there is, those two young influencers,
that's right.
and I gave them the job. I gave them the job.
Oh, really?
Yes, I did. So they were on my platform. I gave them the job. For the first time I'm saying this. I gave them the job because they told me the truth, saying, criticizing you and abusing you sells. And I'll get 500 some retweets at some shit. Fair enough. You told me the truth, you get the job. So, and I'm very clear about it. Look, I have an Oxford degree, I will get a job, I'll go and teach there. So you can't take that away from me. My education, you can't take it away from me. If I'm doing this, a lot of people come to sports journalism because they don't have anything else to do in life. I've come to sports journalism after having a career which people consider good. I've always taught my university. I've done degrees from different parts of the world. And I've done well for myself. I could have done a career in any.
Underrated.
Whatever. So my point is, I've come to sports journalism because I love it. I do Olympic sport, Paralympic sport, Olympic cricket, etc. because I love it. So I don't want to disgrace my profession by doing this nonsense. So for me, a Sumit Until and a Neeraj Chopra is as significant as anyone else.
100%.
Okay, and when I see a Sumit Until break 3 world records in 45 minutes in Tokyo, I go nuts. Whether anyone reads me, whether anyone watches me, whether anyone follows me, I couldn't give a damn.
And I think just to add on to Ashwin's point, also your contributions towards the other sports as well is something that I think is definitely needed to push other sports.
Yeah, it's not charity.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah, no,
100%.
And one should be very clear about it, that each of these sports people, they are slogging their asses off for 4 years for that one little moment under the sun. Now, it is our little job to be able to document their story and give them that respect. It is about equality and sensitivity. It is about gender equality. It is about becoming a better country. And again, I'm saying this. We are all part of one ecosystem. The athlete, the media, the administrator, the fraternity. If we don't come together in celebrating our Paralympics, this time, by the way, I'm predicting we will win 30 to 35 medals. Last time was 19. Rio was 4, London was 1. So from 1 to 4, 4 to 19, 19 to 35 is an exponential jump. Now, if you don't celebrate this story, then what are you celebrating? This is the India shining story. This is what your Prime Minister talks about. This is what soft power is. Do you want to go and celebrate some stupid cricketer naming some stupid journalist? No. For God's sake,
Right.
try and do some real sport. And that's where I feel we as a nation, we claim to be a multi-sporting nation. We are not. We will still, Sunil Chhetri's retirement was not half as consumed as
Anyone else's.
You know,
Yeah.
think about Sunil Chhetri is the Sachin Tendulkar equivalent in
100%. Yeah.
Think about Tendulkar's retirement, think about Chhetri's retirement.
Yeah.
I mean,
Nowhere
I kept
close.
shouting hers. I did a Chhetri interview, I flew into Bhubaneswar, we've done the coach, we've done the goalkeeper, we've done Sandesh. Where is the traction? But are you doing it for the traction? No, you're not. Because unless you're doing this, then you will never be able to. So what can I do? I'll say, okay, shun this. I will not spend money on this. I'll go put my money on say, an IPL final.
Right.
I won't be able to stand in front of the mirror and say, look, I did sport. I didn't do sport. I did TRPs.
Yeah. And I think just to add on to that, you've also, conducted and organized the sports conclave. So what has your thought process been behind that? And I mean, just all of the support that's come. Can you stop?
41 athletes.
Exactly. Yeah.
41 athletes under one roof.
Exactly. It's never
And by
happened.
the way, it's not about me.
Yeah.
The 21 sessions were moderated by all my colleagues. So all I'm trying to do is create a legacy where everyone learns.
Right. Yeah.
By the way, I'm not going to the Cricket World Cup. I didn't go to China for the Asian Games or the Asian Para Games.
Right.
My colleagues did, young colleagues did. And I'm supremely proud of them. So all I'm trying to do in my little humble way to make a difference in the sporting ecosystem. And of the 41 athletes, a lot of them didn't charge me. And I'm putting that on record. I didn't pay a dime to Abhinav.
That is
Bindra.
huge.
I didn't pay a dime to Pullela Gopichand. I didn't pay a dime to Sania Mirza. They came. They came.
Right.
So 41 athletes under one roof in India has never happened before. And I don't think will, unless we do it again. We will.
Right.
So the 2.5 days that we spent together at Trailblazers, and I'm deeply grateful to corporates, Tata Steel as my presenting partner. And the first day I went to Mr. Narendran and to Chanakya Chaudhary and to Sarvesh and people at Tata Steel and I said, this is what I want to do. And they said, done, go. And it was superb. And I've got support from them. Whether it's a Coca-Cola, whether it's an AGS Federal Life Insurance, whether it's a Bharat Serum and Vaccines and a Sanjeev Navangulu heads it, whether it's a Wow Momo, whether it's a federal bank under Shyam Srinivasan.
Right.
I have got support from leading brands of this country who have bought into my vision. And they know that I'm not here to make money. You don't make money doing Olympic sport. You don't. I mean, I lose money every day. That's okay. But Trailblazers is something I'm immensely proud of. We started the Conclave with a series, with a program with 15 or 20 disabled kids performing in front of 41 athletes. And Abhinav went and took photographs with them, along with some of the other athletes as a startup,
Right.
as a photo op, right? Do you need more? A couple of those children and their parents started howling and said, this is the moment of their lives. We all do work for that one little iota of satisfaction.
These are the things you
For
want
me,
to
that's
feel.
the end of story.
I'm going to read out a quote from your book because I think it's really important. You say, could friendships be so shallow and guided by the walls of trolls? In a profession where you meet a lot of people, a lot of journalists, a lot of cricketers, where do you think the line of being friends and not being friends? Like, how do you know you're friends with someone versus when you're not?
I don't, because I'm a bad judge of character. And there's no...
One example.
I thought he was a friend. I mean, you wouldn't otherwise go to a salon to get your hair cut on the same day, and I've written about it.
Yeah.
You don't expect somebody to write those messages to someone if he's not a
Exactly,
friend,
right.
because clearly he was assuming that I will keep his confidence and I will keep his secret, which I did, and what he did was lie about me. So I'm clearly a very bad judge of character, and I've got no problems in accepting that. But if this basic of trust goes away, then what are you left with? What are you left with? I consider Sachin Tendulkar a friend of mine. Now he might say, what are you talking about? I'm Bharat Ratna. I'm sorry. I've lived with that man, and by the way, I've got 135 hours of Sachin on tape because of the autobiography.
Yeah.
You could have asked it back. 135 hours of unadulterated conversation on tape, valued at millions, or whatever it is. The fact is, this can only happen between friends. So, Abhinav and I, Gopi and I, we are friends because there are secrets, there are things that are said in confidence, things that are said in anger also.
Yeah.
But you don't play each other, right? And that is, but I have no qualms in accepting that as far as this particular cricketer is concerned, I showed myself to be an extremely bad judge of character, and my hand is up.
And there were also a couple of journalists who didn't back you up when this happened? Again, they have their side of the story. They couldn't just come out in the open and talk about certain things unless you think otherwise. Do you think they could have?
Look, all they could have done, a lot of them, is ask my side of the story and shut up.
Right.
And not play the fire or fan the fire.
Yeah.
There's a difference between having a compulsion to keep quiet, and there were many who called me and said, listen, we belong to the same house, so we know what this is all about. Sadly, we can't say, and I accept that. You've got a job to keep.
Right.
And there's a completely different side of the story when you're doing provocative videos, fanning that fire, and actually instigating and provoking the crowd to attack me and the family. That is where I have a problem. Because you were actually playing the social media game. And I understand that you thought it will help you in your career.
Right.
Sadly, you did not expect this rebut 2 years down the line. And today you don't have a place to hide. And by the way, I did call some of them before the book released. And I said, do read. And after that, not even one call, they've all run away for cover. So I'm putting that on record. And if they ever come in front of me, I will look them in the eye and say, hello, you did this. I want to see what they do to me. I will look the cricketer in the eye and say, you lied. And I will say that, I swear on my daughter. I want to see what he does to me. Why doesn't he come in front of me and allow a cross-examination? Sit down, let me ask questions, let anybody in the world moderate it. His favorite journalist moderate it. And I'm telling you, I'm open. I've put my cards out there, you know what, because it's the truth.
One of the interesting bits about the book is the people who have supported you, you've named them, and people who haven't, you've given them enough description to know who they are, but just not the name, which was very nice, which was a good touch.
Yeah. And just to add on to this, I mean, Aswin did speak about friendships and trust and all of this. How much did it affect you mentally? I mean, you've described it in detail in the book, but just, to reiterate and to sort of give your thoughts.
It's not about self-pity.
Right.
It was never about self-pity. It affected us, not me. It affected us hugely.
Yeah.
I did not know my daughter for a while. Every day she would come, I would sit, not even talk to her, and she would say, is this my father? I'm generally an extrovert and an optimist. I tell stories to her every night and all that. It had come to a standstill. My wife was being called a prostitute on social media. What has she done to deserve that? My daughter was being called a monster because she's been born to me. What has she done to deserve that? She was being showed photographs of dogs with a leash around the dog's neck, saying, this is your father. She's 8-year-old. If she was 15, it would have terminally damaged her mentally. My mother is 74. What has she done to deserve what she got? So, it is not about self-pity at all. But at the same time, if we talk mental health, it destroyed us. And it destroyed us. I don't think there is closure. As I said to you at the start off camera, I will not get my mother's health back. I will never. So I will forever live with this trauma. And even when she dies, I will know that I was partly responsible for pushing her down that hill and not being able to sort of rescue her when I could have, because an entitled, powerful individual peddled lies. So the damage that it has caused me and my family is irreparable. And will I be able to redeem that? No. And I'm no gunda that I will go and beat people up. What I could have done is put my side of the story. I'm an intellectual, right? At the end of the day, I read, write, I talk. And that's what I've done. That's what I can do. This is my way of protest. That's where it ends for me. And as I said, on the day of the launch in Kolkata, my mother called me after I came home and I said, I can die in peace after tonight.
Right.
Matter ends. Matter ends.
You talk about closure, and you talk about how there's no closure as of yet because of what it had done to you and your family. But the day the book was released and you're at peace. You're at peace? You feel that? What about your wife, your daughter?
I've actually told her exactly I would have if she was an adult. Okay. So she knows it. And as she grows, this is for her. So when she reads this, when she's 15, when she's 17, when she's 20, she will know that her father wrote this and what her father is. So she will know that her father is not the bully that she was labeled to be, not the person who intimidated, not the person who was labeled this criminal monster, whatever. This is her truth. This is her father's truth. And I'm very proud of it. So deep down, there is enormous satisfaction. Enormous satisfaction that, I don't know if I'm able to say it. I was torn. There was enormous self-doubt at one point. Should I not? Is it right? Is it not? Now when I think back a month and a half later, I think this is the most important thing I've done in my life.
Really?
Oh, okay.
Because
Get right up there.
why do you live?
Yep.
You live for credibility, you live for respect, you live for, you want to be the hero in the eyes of your daughter, right? Forget the world. Ultimately, it's about your own people. That little girl who looks at her father and thinks he's superhuman. That's what it is like. That's the relationship. I think I've been able to do that with this book. So, for me, that's the biggest satisfaction.
That is so good, and that is so interesting, because one of our questions was going to be, while writing this book, did you ever feel that you shouldn't go ahead?
Really, we did.
And so who did you go, was it yourself? Did you back yourself up, or did you go to someone to talk to about this book? Were there people that...
My colleagues did. So, I was also thinking if I'm putting them in peril,
Yeah,
my Red Sports colleagues,
That was,
if there was a backlash, if something happens, how do I take care of them? And I'm responsible for them because they are my own. I consider them.
You've also named a lot of sports
Of course I
people.
have.
Yeah.
I went to Abhinav. He was perhaps the only one apart from my wife who read it, my publishers. The fact that Simon and Schuster took the risk of publishing this, hats off to Rahul and the rest of the Simon and Schuster team. My wife was my biggest sounding board. This is as much hers as mine.
Right.
Words are my friends, but you know what? Every day I would sit to write, my hands froze. I couldn't. And it happened for months.
You couldn't because...
I was angry, I was traumatized, I don't know what, but I wasn't able to. I wasn't able to articulate. I would feel the anger, I would feel the nervousness, I would run away. But then I went to Oxford. I literally fled India.
Yep.
I went to Oxford and I sat down when it started. And I actually had taken Aisha for a walk to the university parks. And I looked her in the eye and like, am I a bully? Did I really intimidate? Did I want to threaten this cricketer and want to end his life? And I had my answer. And I looked at it and I sat down to write, wrote 2,000-3,000 words in no time. And it flowed. It flowed. And when I finished the book, I was drained. I was completely drained. That it had taken a lot out of me. But as I said, I was impacted by self-doubt. I was at an inflection point every single day when I wrote. But when I look back, I don't think I could have taken a better call than this. I would have had to live the rest of my life with the tag of a bully and a criminal. Today my truth is out there. Whether you believe it or not, I don't care. I know what
You've
the
put
truth
it
is
out
and I
there,
have to do
yeah.
it.
I mean, you've put the truth and a lot of evidences out, so it'll be very hard to not believe you.
Again, does it matter?
That's true. That's true.
I don't know if you consider this a good thing or what your thoughts on this are, but during that period, obviously, you had to face the ban for a couple of years, which means you were not directly going and covering cricket. But that also gave you the opportunity to cover Paralympics, Olympics, sorry.
Rev Sports owes it to the ban.
Yeah. And I mean, so how was that time for you? And was there a point where you sort of fell out of love with cricket because of all that had transpired?
This is a very good question. Today, when I watch cricket, I watch it with work as the background.
Right.
Yes.
That yes, I'm responsible to my organization if I put my face to a broadcast and I take an interview, like I did that Sourav Ganguly interview with Autumn, which is viral. I took that Justin Anger interview after that Sanjeev Goenka, KL Rahul happened. So these are viral interviews which are work. Do I watch it with the same passion? Maybe not. So the love that I used to watch a Zimbabwe versus Bangladesh at 2 a.m. in the morning.
Right.
In fact, my relationship with my wife was about to break down because she thought I was crazy. So that cricket fan in me, they've destroyed that.
Okay.
I hope I'll get it back because this is my life. I do sport for a living.
Right.
I will do it for work because I have to.
Right.
I will do it optimally in India. But if you ask me, sitting today, do you want to go watch an Olympic Games? Do you want to go watch a Cricket World Cup final? The evidence is in front of you. I didn't go to the US. I didn't go to the Caribbean. I'm going to Paris twice for the Olympics and Paralympics. So you have the answer.
And I mean, so that's also got to do with all that you've gone through.
Yeah, because I think it's flippant.
But even just covering, I mean, because you've been doing it for 20 years, which is no short span of time. So even during that period itself, how do you ensure that you keep sort of this fire alive? Not just for cricket, but even for other sports? Because it can get very taxing.
It is. It is taxing because at the end of the day, when you do a Sunil Chhetri interview, which is brilliant, and then you see, okay, a silly cricket piece gets enormous numbers on social media, and you feel, but that is when the challenge is inner. You know, that is when it is a deeper challenge. That are we living this social media life? Or are we living a life which is for intellectual satisfaction? Are we living a larger macro story? And I think I've come to peace with that, and my team has. That look, do not worry about numbers. Do the best you can. Of course, work for numbers and reaching out to maximum people. But, and there I take inspiration from athletes again. Take a Tendulkar. Tendulkar did not have to do for 24 years. He would have achieved whatever. Abhinav Bindra did not have to make his body go through what he did after epilepsy in 2014 for 16. He did. Pullela Gopichand did not have to do an academy after his mother was going through cancer, but he did, and what he does today for Gayatri and the rest of them. So, my inspiration comes from sport. What does sport teach you? It teaches me how to lose. It teaches me it's okay to be not okay. It teaches me that I can have mental health problems. It's fine. It's fine to come and discuss it with you. It teaches me I'm not perfect. But you know what? We seek perfection. Each one of us, that 1%, we all try to be perfect in an imperfect day. That's what sport teaches.
I think this is going to be a last question, and I want to bring it back to where it began, the apex body and the cricket. It's been a month and a half since the book has been released. Like you said, it's been a bestseller. You haven't expected the response. I mean, we've come here after reading the book. Has the apex body or the cricketer responded about the book?
The cricketer has it. I don't think, at least, people would have come to me and said, I did meet people from the apex body. And by the way, I've said this in the book also. I met a number of them at the WTC.
Right.
For example, Jai Shah. He was extremely polite and respectful, and so was I, and we had a chat. I met Rajiv Shukla at an IPL game. I met a number of officials at multiple IPL games, and they have been absolutely fine. They have been absolutely fine, and I'm putting that on record. So, and I want to say this clearly, I think the apex body got played. Because of this power of social media. Did they have any... come on, I knew Rajiv Ji for 25 years. And Rajiv Ji is... Whatever he is, he doesn't have vendetta. You can call him anything. Rajiv Ji doesn't have vendetta. Arun doesn't even know me. Arun Dhumal. He and I were never friends. Why should he have vendetta? Prabtej Bhatia was the first... He was part of the committee. I was meeting him the first time in that committee. So why should he have vendetta against me? So, and think clearly. And the other point I want to say this. Because a lot of people come and say, oh, you know what, Sourav Ganguly is your friend, he was the board president. I'm delighted that Sourav Ganguly did not exercise his power and go and save me by using his veto or convince the other members. Then, whatever I did for the rest of my life, my story would not be accepted.
Exactly.
Today, you guys are doing this interview because I have served the ban. So let's face it, had I not suffered, there was no interview. So I'm glad that Sourav did not save me. I was... At one level of me thought, come on, Sourav, you know the truth, why you're not doing it? But I'm glad in hindsight that Sourav did not do what he did. Did not do anything untoward or unexpected. He should have, thank God he did not do anything for me. And he and I are best friends. And I told him this in multiple programs. I'm glad you did not use your good offices. Because then I would not be able to look myself in the mirror.
Burjat, thank you so much for doing this. I mean, the reason we even picked up this book at the airport is because, like we told you in the messages, we are aspiring journalists.
So you've given me 10% royalty.
Sure. And so like I told you off air, that when I saw this book at the airport, I was genuinely scared, not for the book, but like for you, because you already went through so much and how much more would you go through. But reading this book gave us something to hold on to. And this is a small gift. So we have marked down one of the lines that you have said. You can read it out. And it's a very silly gift. But I think it's very poetic in that sense. 1 second. Because you have gone through a lot of tests. We got you an SC test ball. Because you love test cricket, you followed test cricket for so long.
I actually want to quote that. So you say, let me ball some balls to him for a change and let him hit me out of the park if he can. This is obviously referring to Saha. And so here's the ball.
I didn't name the cricketer.
You didn't.
We think it's about Saha.
We think it's about Saha.
And as I said, this has nothing to do with the cricketer's family. And I will never name it. Because there has to be a difference. Having said that, all human beings will go on. He doesn't need to speak to me or apologize to me. But he does if he's a human being. can't apologize to my mother. Because that lady of 75 did not deserve this. If there is humanity left, he needs to say he was sorry for him, that it lies along his side. If that happens, I'll forgive.
There you go. There you have it. For if you ever do listen to the cricketer that you are, Saha that you are, and you heard what he said, if you ever have the heart to do so, and if you ever think that is the right thing to do, go ahead. Guys, thank you so much for watching. Check out this book. It's phenomenal. Not just because he's here, it's the other way around. We are here because of the book. So check it out. Thank you so much for watching. Peace.